All right, so we are live and I see the audience coming in. I'm just going to give it a few seconds for everyone to dial in or the internet to connect. Oh, wow, we already around 20 people in this session. That's great to see. So those of you who have joined the session and are able to hear me, I'm going to do a quick audio check as well. So for this, if in the chat, you can let us know the country or the city you're dialing in from. So if you're dialing in from India, just mention the city you're dialing in from. If you're dialing in from outside of India, then let us know the country as well. This will really help us know where our audience is coming from. So I see someone from Lagos, Nigeria. Hi, Owen, Lade, forgive my pronunciation in case I'm messing it up, but please keep those responses coming in. Let us know the city and the country you're dialing in from. Okay, I'm going to wait for a few more seconds. We have around 35 people in this room already. Hi, Sairaj. Thank you for dialing in. Sairaj is from Pune. All right. Cool. I see Anshika from Punjab. I see Vaishnavi from Nanded, which is in Maharashtra. I see Sangeeta dialing in from Nepal. Thank you for dialing in, Sangeeta. Great. I'm just going to wait for a few more seconds. Usually Zoom takes a minute to download or install. So I just want to give everyone a chance before we start this session. So keep those responses coming in. Hi, Rekha. Rekha is dialing in from Hyderabad. Uh, Arslan is dialing in from Pakistan, I'm assuming, Arslan. Yep, Bahi is again from Karachi, Pakistan. Hi, Nitish. Welcome to this session. Thank you for dialing in. Great. With that, we are over for 50 attendees in this session. So I'm going to start doing my introduction now alongside. Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on the country or the time zone you are in, and good morning to those of you who are towards the United States or North America, that side of the world. My name is Sanjay Dhingra. I'm one of the co-founders and the Chief Operating Officer at Seed Global Education. Those of you who know us, you know about a lot of events and similar interactions that we do. We do something called as a Seed Business School Festival, where a lot of top B schools participate and come and travel with us in India, multiple countries in Africa, and from this year in Middle East as well. We also do a lot of online masterclasses and webinars like the one we are doing today, this evening, or here. We also run a special scholarships fund, which is over $6 million plus. So any of you who are looking for funding for your masters, whether it's in North America, United States, Canada, or Europe, or even in Asia, we do work with a lot of institutions, universities, and business schools and administer a special scholarships fund on behalf of them. And besides that, we do a lot of other different things in different parts of the world. Today's session is particularly relevant, I believe. I think funding is a common challenge which a lot of candidates who are applying for MBA programs or business school outside of India, or outside North America or Europe do face when you're coming, especially from markets in Asia or in Africa. And I have been through the same journey myself. When I was going through B school application journey, I think funding was the thing that scared me the most. But once I completed the program, I realized that should have been the least of my worries. Is the education, how you perform in the program, how you do over there. That's what you need to be most prepared for. Funding is something that sorts out, especially when you're going to a prestigious business school like MSU Broad in this particular case. Before I kickstart and introduce our speaker for today's session, what I want to do is quickly run our first and the only poll for today evening. And the poll is going to be live on the screen right now. My question to you is, as an MBA aspirant, what is your biggest challenge in securing funding for your US MBA program? If you're not targeting an MBA program, it could be a business master's program as well. It could be any master's program as well. The idea is to get a pulse of what is the thing that scares you the most, or which is the biggest challenge that you face when you're trying to secure funding for your studies abroad. Great. I see the responses coming in. Around 25 people have already responded. We have over 60 attendees in this session now. So keep those responses coming in. I'm going to keep the poll live for another 20, 30 seconds. So if you haven't responded, please do respond to the poll. In the meanwhile, all of you who have dialed in, welcome once again. It's great to see the diversity of where the people are coming from. I see people from all across India, also Asia, so different countries in Asia as well. I see some people dialing in from Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Kenya, and other parts of the world as well. So welcome once again. As I mentioned, today's session is around funding and how to secure that coveted funding to sponsor your studies in North America, and especially in this case, also at MSU Broad. I'm going to end the poll and quickly share the results. These are quite insightful. I think if you can see the results on the screen now, the biggest challenge which most people voice is finding the right scholarships and merit-based grants. This is in spite schools, almost all schools having merit-based scholarships, still finding those scholarships and how to get those grants is the biggest challenge for candidates, or getting insights about those is the biggest challenge. The next voice biggest challenge is the guidance on funding strategies, which is also very important because funding is not just scholarships. Many schools do give out merit scholarships, but most likely it's never going to be 100%. Very rarely would a candidate really outstanding profile would end up getting a 100% scholarship. In most cases, it's going to be a partial waiver. So having that strategy right for where to get the rest of the funding from, that is important. And then about managing student loans, planning for it, all of those are the other challenges which people voice. With that, let me introduce and segue into our session for today. As I mentioned earlier, right, our session today is about unlocking funding opportunities for pursuing your master's and MBA in the United States. As we spoke about, it is a common challenge for a lot of candidates. Today's speaker is an expert in this domain. Our speaker is Cara Trippi, who is the Director of Admissions at MSU Michigan State University's full-time MBA program. Cara has worked in the domain for over a decade, and she's helped candidates achieve their academic goals and, of course, guide them through this journey of securing funding for their studies as well. We are going to talk to her, and she's going to tell us about certain strategies. These are going to be broad-based strategies. Of course, you can use these to fund your studies at MSU Broad, but also gives you broader guidance on what are the avenues, external funding opportunities that you can tap into. And with that, I'm going to hand over the screen to Cara and let her take the session ahead. Thank you, Cara, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Sanjay. Appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining today, wherever you are at the world. I've seen many different countries come in, so it's so great to have you. But hopefully, by the time you leave today, your second and first concern really can be addressed, right? The strategy of identifying scholarships, merit-based scholarships, and when and where you start looking for those. As Sanjay had mentioned, it's really rare that MBA programs fully give a tuition scholarship, but we are starting to see that more and more here at Broad. So hopefully we become an affordable choice for you. But a little bit about our institution, just so you can get kind of a visual of what our campus looks like and where we're coming from. We are a large Midwest Big Ten school with a vibrant campus community. So if you've ever seen a movie about a college campus, Michigan State really fits into that central college town. We have a little over 52,000 students here at Michigan State University, and we're proud to have one of the largest living alumni networks as well. The College of Business, the Broad College of Business, is there's 17 colleges. We are the largest college here at Michigan State University. So I always say when it comes to the full-time MBA, you get the best of both worlds because you get a small, tight, close-knit community with the MBA. Typically, we welcome about 50 to 60 students per intake year. And then you'll also benefit from all of the MSU resources, and that does include many scholarships and international student support. Now, with that being said, we are like any other MBA program where we have specialties. So we're typically known for supply chain management, logistics, and operations. However, we are STEM designated, so students can choose from 3 different concentration within our MBA and receive the 3 years of OPT. Those concentrations would be supply chain, marketing, and finance. However, you're able to select different electives to really enhance your career and objectives for that career. But moving on, we do set our tuition, right? So I wish education in the United States was free for everybody, but the MSU Board of Trustees does establish incoming tuition and fees the August before the program begins. So this tuition was just set 2 months ago at the beginning of August, and you can see the in-state and out-of-state fees. Those are per year, so you'd want to times that per 2. But about 90% of Broad MBA students, that does absolutely include international students, receive some form of scholarship or fellowship from the school. And we're going to get into that and what that looks like. And I do want to say that many of these offerings are very similar across most MBA programs. So yes, I am the expert for Michigan State University, but when you're looking at other MBA programs and you hear scholarships, fellowships, in-state tuition waivers, graduate assistantships, they typically all mean the same thing, right? So when we're looking at Michigan State University, we are one of the most affordable full-time MBA programs in the Big Ten. And that means that our conference, so the division that our institution is in, is the Big Ten. So you'll see some other schools on there. Most notably, my neighbor is the University of Michigan at Ross, University of Minnesota, Ohio State. So all of these institutions are in the Big Ten division. Smaller institutions are going to be in a different division, and then obviously you've probably heard of the Ivy Leagues. They're in a different division. So within the Big Ten, we like to say we're the best value based upon the cost of our tuition and the value of the degree after. We are constantly ranked by Financial Times to have the fastest payback time for MBA among all ranked programs in the Big Ten. So again, the value of the degree plus the cost of tuition is extreme for us. Now, you're not just paying for tuition too, so you want to think about that at the different institutions that you're looking at. You're looking at the cost of living too. So tuition is one thing, but you have to live somewhere. You have to buy groceries. You have to pay for internet, right? So in East Lansing, Michigan, if I put up my little mitt, right, like Michigan is a hand, we are right in the middle of Michigan. So we're in mid-Michigan. So we're very close to Detroit, but we're also very close to our neighboring in Chicago, Illinois. However, if you chose a school in Chicago, it's going to be very expensive to live there. You can see Northwestern is right outside of Chicago. The cost of living is one of the highest in the United States. So housing, groceries, transportation costs are all well below the national average here in East Lansing, where Michigan State University is located. This provides a significant financial advantage, allowing students to really budget more for their tuition and other educational expenses. Maybe you want to go to a conference. Maybe you want to go to our global marketplace where we bring students abroad for 1 week. This year, we're going to Ireland. Maybe you want to do a trek with a student organization. If you're not paying as much for living, you're able to allocate that budget for something else. And as I had mentioned, we are closely moving to covering tuition for all admitted students. So a top priority for us here at Broad College is maximizing your return on self. Throughout the MBA journey and beyond, we really want to make sure that you are able to focus on what your career goals may be and be a strong advocate for those who come after you. So beginning with fall 2026 admits, 90% of eligible full-time MBA students will receive financial support either through significant scholarships, so that means either full tuition covered by MSU or almost all full tuition, or a graduate assistantship. And a graduate assistantship is really an agreement between the university and the student where they will work 10 hours a week for the institution in some capacity. So you could be on the admissions team, you could work for housing. And in return, you get 9 credit hours of tuition covered, plus health insurance and a monthly stipend. So this can help with the cost of living as well. Now, this level of support is made possible by our strong industry partners who recognize the advantage that Broad MBA graduates are making on their organizations. So we're able to really hone into some of these fellowships and scholarships more so than we have been able to do so before. Now, I had mentioned graduate assistantships. Let's say that you do receive almost a full tuition scholarship, but you're looking for some more aid, or maybe you're looking for some health insurance costs. You can seek external graduate assistantships, and we call them GAs. So if you ever hear somebody in the MBA staff say, hey, are you looking for a GA role? That just means a graduate assistantship. At Michigan State, there are more than 3,000 graduate assistantships available. And that's going to be really common across the board for larger institutions. Like I said, most Big Ten institutions will have multiple graduate assistantships available to students. Now, within the MBA space, we choose a handful of those GAs. And if you're not selected for an MBA GA, that's okay. It doesn't mean that you can't receive a GA position. It just means that you'll have to look elsewhere. Now, some of those GAs could be posted through housing. So I selected a little clip from last year where they were looking for graduate assistantships for residence life and housing. Sometimes we get faculty members who email us who are looking for graduate assistantships, and we send those out to our incoming students. So you can see a little snippet of the email that I received a few years back. It really takes students to contact different departments on campus to see if there are any GA roles available, and you want to do this as soon as possible. For example, the Live On MSU for residence and housing, they typically look for their GAs for the following year in the fall semester. So from September to January. If you are waiting to apply to the program to be admitted in February, you're going to miss that time to apply to those GAs. So I always tell international students to apply as early as possible, because that means you're opening many more opportunities than if you're waiting until the 11th hour to apply to an MBA program. Okay. Now, again, there is not a place where all GA roles are posted. That's the icky part about looking for a GA role if you're not selected for an MBA GA position. But again, that self advocacy for you is really important, and you can email anybody that you think might be a good fit for you. Dining, libraries, athletics, and they might have a GA role. Additionally, MSU offers a limited number of grants, scholarships, and loans for international students. Loan and grant programs are either short-term or to be used as degree completion loans. These fundings are not designed to support the full academic program. And that's okay, because most MBA students don't need their full MBA program funded, right? They just are trying to subsidize what is not funded. This can also include emergency funding as well. So here at MSU, we have the Office for International Students and Scholars, also known as OISS. They do, if you went to their website, they have a grants and scholarship page, and there are many different international scholarships. For example, there's a scholarship for students who are from Tanzania. There's a scholarship for students who are studying business and are seeking, international placement after the degree. There are many different types of funding that are just for international students specifically. Now, the Office of Financial Aid does not offer aid to international students. You do have to be a permanent resident or a domestic student. However, there are alternative sources for funding and funding search websites that are listed. So if you go to the Office of Financial Aid and click Graduate and Professional Aid, you'll be able to see different websites that do support international student scholarships. And these are external scholarships, so not associated with Michigan State University, but subsidized by other organizations that we either partner with or we've been made aware of that sponsor international scholarships. And then additionally, let's say you have a full tuition scholarship, you have housing covered, and maybe you're just looking for additional spending cash, or maybe you're looking to have some cash for groceries or transportation. International students can work on campus positions. So MSU hires more than 17,000 students a year for cashiers, computer assistants, food service workers, MSU athletics, research aides, TAs, and many other forms of on-campus jobs. Many jobs require no previous work experience and no specialized training. However, there are some that do, and that might fit your background. So once you become a student and have your MSU email address, you're able to log into a service that we call Handshake, and that posts all on-campus jobs available for students. So again, many of our MBA students will seek some sort of on-campus employment if they're looking for extra spending cash. Again, this is not going to fund your whole MBA program, but it does give you some sort of monthly allowance in that regard. All right, so how do you get the most money, right? We've talked a lot about scholarships and MBA scholarships, and what should you do to position yourself not only for admission, but also getting the most scholarship from the program. So for MSU, the Bro to MBA, all of our scholarships and fellowships are merit-based. And what that means is we don't issue need-based scholarships. So sometimes I get candidates that email me and say, unfortunately, I just lost my job and, I'm supporting my mother or my brother and I don't have the money to come to the program. Although I have extreme empathy for that, there is nothing that I can do from a scholarship lens because that would be a need scholarship request. However, let's say you were admitted and maybe you received a scholarship, but you didn't submit with a GMAT or GRE score. I can then say, hey, have you thought about taking the GMAT? And if you receive a strong score, then we can upgrade your scholarship offer because that leads into your merit-based profile. I am asked many times, well, what does the admissions committee care about? If it's just GMAT, then I should just focus on getting the best score possible. And I would not encourage that because admissions is a very holistic process and we care about everything. So here at MSU, we do have a pretty lengthy admissions process, and this is pretty standard across the board at MBA programs. You may have started your online application, maybe you've submitted, that's great, but then we do require a few additional items. So unofficial transcripts for the full-time MBA need to be submitted at time of application. If you're admitted, then we require official transcripts. We do require a resume so we can see your work history, essays. If you're taking a GMAT or GRE, we require 2 recommendation forms, not letters of recommendation. And then if you're coming from an international location where we require a language proficiency test, we would require a TOEFL, Duolingo, or you could see if you are eligible for a waiver. We do have a website available for international students applying to the MBA where you can have a waiver. Once we have all of that and you've submitted by a deadline, we will review your application and then we might invite you to an interview, which would be the next step of the admissions process, okay? Now those buckets, are very different. So what do we look for when we're looking at these different materials? Well, there's academic potential, career history and goals, and personal characteristics, and all matter equally. So one is not outweighing the other. When I'm looking at a candidate, I'm really asking myself 3 questions, and you need to be able to demonstrate on this on your application. And that is, could this student be academically successful in an MBA program? It's not an easy program, or everybody would have an MBA. Is this person here for the right reasons? Do they understand what the MBA is and how it's applicable to their future career goals? And what would they bring to the cohort? This is very much a we program, not a me program. So it's really important that you're looking for a collaborative experience. And you can do show those through a few different ways, right? So I put different academic buckets below, and you want to make sure all of these components are strong. When we're looking at the application, we're receiving hundreds of applications a year, specifically from international students. So you really want to make yourself stand apart, and you need to be able to explain your interest in the MBA. Do your research on the MBA programs. Do your research on what industry and companies they align with. Spend your time drafting and rehearsing your experience and your story. answer the questions we're asking you. Sometimes I'll read essay questions and they don't address the question that's being asked, right? So you can showcase this through your written essay, your video essay, and of course your interview. Everybody has a different story. You have different goals and objectives. So you want to, like I said, practice your elevator pitch. Maybe you want to start your own business. Maybe your dream is to move to the United States and work for a tech company. Maybe eventually you want to be a CFO. All of those are great answers. We're not looking to put a red X through your application and say, no, your goal doesn't fit what our goals are. But we also want to be able to make sure that you understand what that MBA is, right? If you are telling me in the interview, well, as soon as I graduate in the MBA and walk across the stage, I want to be the CEO of Ford Motor Company. Well, that's great. We have really strong ties with the automotive company. We have very strong ties with Ford, but you're not going to be the CEO at 26, 27, 28 years old, maybe in 20 to 25 years. So we want to make sure that your expectations align with what an MBA can actually offer you. Where resume is where international students really struggle, especially if you are not used to the US market. So a lot of times I will receive resumes where the format is really poor. There's lots of spelling mistakes or errors. I don't expect the resume to be perfect at this stage, but I do expect that I can understand your educational history and where you're currently working at really in less than 10 seconds. Format is so important. On average in the United States, companies spend less than 6 seconds reviewing resumes. So you have to be able to format in a strong way. This is the format that we typically want to see in an application. 1 page. I don't care if you have 5 or 10 years of work experience at the application process, your resume should be 1 page, education should be at the top, related work experience short after, and then any activities, honors, or skills you're involved with. I don't need to know every single objective you've done in your career. I don't need to know every single task you've done in your career. Just highlight the top performing angles. And these really should be measured, right? So it shouldn't say, I was able to read books. It could say, I was able to review 47 journals in a 1-year period time. That STAR method and the measurement is really important. And then the interview is important as well. Sometimes I see candidates who don't take it seriously. And unfortunately, I would say the interview weighs most heavily on the application process because somebody can look really strong in paper form on their digital application, but then you get them in an interview and you can just tell that they didn't put together their application or they're just not a good fit for the program. So again, you want to really take the interview seriously. Make sure you're professional, make sure you're on time, make sure you're dressed appropriately, even if it's a virtual interview. I've had candidates laying on their bed in their pajamas, so that's never a good look for the admissions committee. I had mentioned the STAR method before. So this really can be applicable to your resume and your interview. So situation, task, action, results. You want to keep it brief. We have a very short period of time with you when we're going through your resume and your interview. So you want to be able to give us a very holistic lens of what you're doing. So we have a strong understanding when we go to the admissions committee, but then when we also discuss your scholarship and fellowship. The STAR method really helps with a nice booked end response. So if you're not familiar with that, I would definitely encourage you to start practicing the STAR method and start practicing that elevator pitch. Now, if you're not sure where to start your research about different institutions, Most will have a blog form. So for example, this is a snapshot of our blog and student experience here at the Broad College of Business at Michigan State University. I would say the majority of MBA programs will have a blog cycle, so you can get a better understanding about the student experience. You can get a better understanding about the curriculum and academic journey. And then of course, the career aspect for after the MBA. And this will help you not only do research, but stay informed if you become a student. So I wanted to mention a few aspects of what we're doing to support international students. So I want to address the elephant in the room. It's really hard right now to be an international student here in the United States. It is really hard to obtain, one, the visa to come to the United States, but it's also hard for placement after MBA completion. I think that it's always a pendulum. I've been in the MBA space now for almost 7 years. I've been in higher education working with prospective students for almost 13 years. So I see that it's a pendulum and it swings back and forth. Right now, it's a little bit harder. I'm assuming by the time you graduate with your MBA, it will swing back, but international students have to work 10 times as hard as domestic and PR students currently. So to prepare international students, we've really ramped up our support. One thing that we're doing this year is obviously partnering with SEED, but they have a visa prep course, and we are offering that to all of our admitted, deposited international MBA students. So hopefully this helps you feel confident when you have that I-20 and you're going for that visa interview. We have talked to SEED, and this prep course has been really successful for students feeling confident and knowing what to expect. I know guidance and strategy was something that you all selected that you weren't feeling super confident about, so hopefully this helps with that. In addition, we have our Office of International Students and Scholars, OISS. They help on many different things. This is the office that issues the I-20 for you to come to Michigan State and study your education here at the university. But they also assist with the international student journey, including laws and safety regulations, student life, adjusting to East Lansing, academic support, support for your family if you're bringing your spouse and children, and a whole host of other things. They are literally, their office is a 5-minute walk from the College of Business. So many of our international students spend a lot of time working with OISS. And then finally, within the MBA program, we really are a melting pot of different cultures. We do have a student resource group that's dedicated to international students. It's our multicultural student resource group here in the MBA. So a lot of times they host different assets and holidays that our international students are looking to celebrate. I know Diwali's coming up, so they host an annual big event for that. Again, all ran by MBA students, but for your career journey, we have the Russell Palmer Career Management team, and we have an associate director. Her name is Kelsey Fedewa, and she really focuses on our international student population. She works on developing partnerships for companies and projects for international students. She really understands OPT and visa placement. Not every MBA program has someone like Kelsey. She was just hired last year as the Associate Director for Global Career Initiatives. She comes from a background of working with primarily international students at another business school. So again, trying to help as much as possible for getting here, during your time here, and post-MBA completion. So my question for you is, are you ready, right? You're taking the first step, you're looking at MBA programs, which is wonderful, and you should definitely pat yourself on the back for that. But if you feel like Michigan State is a good fit for you, we have a variety of different rounds for the full-time MBA. Actually, our first deadline is today. So if you are inspired and feel that Michigan State is the right fit, you could apply today as long as your application is in by 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. So here in Michigan, we would consider you for a round 1 applicant. If you don't hit that deadline, that's absolutely okay. You could apply for round 2 or round 3. International students must apply by round 3, and that's a February 16th deadline because we want you to have enough time to get the materials you need to get in, to get your I-20 and get your visa and start working on our prep course. This is our team, small but mighty. As I mentioned, I'm Kara Trippi. We have Kate Irwin, who's our Senior Associate Director, and then Beth Thomas as well, who works with many of our international students on getting that documentation in for the I-20. So that's what I have. I so appreciate you expanding and looking at our program. Again, I hope this answers some questions. I know that Sanjay probably has some questions and we're seeing some things come in, but I'm happy to address anything that might be on your mind.
Perfect. Thank you, Kara. This was very insightful and really helpful. I think getting this conference about the funding opportunities is a great, important thing. A lot of candidates give up on their study abroad dreams or their dreams to make it to top schools just because they're scared of funding. So my recommendation to the audience is, and I'll put it out here, I did my MBA at the Indian School of Business. When I went in over there, I was really, really scared because I was funding my entire studies with loan. But I realized the benefits of a good quality MBA always outweighs the cost of that education. So you always benefit a lot more. The network, the learning, the progression that you make in your career helps you pay off that loan quite comfortably. And of course, open up a lot more opportunities and doors for you. So don't let funding limit you. This is going to be my personal advice to our audience today. With that, I'm going to transition into the audience questions. A lot of questions have already come in. And let me start with the most recent one, which has just come in. So this is a question from Sairaj Patil, who comes from a medicine background. So he is a doctor and he's considering doing an MBA. Kara, in your experience, maybe abroad or elsewhere, do you see doctors coming in for the MBA as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we actually have a joint partnership with 2 of our medical schools here at Michigan State. So we have a DO MBA program and an MD MBA program. Now, you do have to be in the DO or MD program to do the joint degree, but if you're already a doctor and maybe you're looking to get out of the day-to-day and really want to go onto the administration side of hospital management or healthcare management, that is extremely common. So we see that both in the full-time MBA and also our executive and online MBA. So yes, all different walks of life, but healthcare and medical doctors is extremely common.
Great, thank you, Kara. I know a couple of doctors who did their MBA as well, and now they're running startups, so maybe entrepreneurship is a way as well. Those from India may know this. The founder of Zolo Stays, he's a medical doctor as well, did an MBA and became an entrepreneur. Same way, those of you who come from the city of Hyderabad would know 0.40. It's a popular brewery over there, and their founder is a doctor as well. So yeah, of course, there are pathways which open up after an MBA for doctors as well. Great. The next question which has come in, it's from Praneet, who's asking what are the typical post-MBA roles and salaries for international graduates? I'm guessing roles would be difficult to explain across industries, but maybe just hierarchy-wise or designation-wise, if you have some options over there, and what could be the average salaries that they can think of?
Yeah, so our average salary right now for a full-time MBA graduate is about 120 USD with about a 20,000 signing bonus. Now, this just depends upon the year. This refers to our class of 2024 that just graduated last May. So class of 2025, those statistics should be coming out any day now. We measure 3 months after graduation and 6 months after graduation. So 6 months after graduation is the 120 with the 20,000 signing bonus. International students are blended into that, so we don't take international and domestic students out, but on our career outcome page, we do. So you can see what the average salary is for somebody living in California, what the average salary is for an international student who came from India. So we do have a really direct breakdown of that. Common industries for Broad College is oil and gas, automotive, fast-moving consumer goods, transportation, technology, management, consulting. So our students really go everywhere. It just depends. Again, on our website, we do have a breakdown of the top hiring companies from class of 2024. And as I mentioned, we should have class of 2025 any day now. Okay.
Great. Thanks, Kara. All right. The next question I have is from Bhumika Shetty, who's asking what is the specific criteria you take into account for awarding merit-based scholarships or fellowships? Is it just GMAT, GRE, or other factors playing a role as well?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So it really depends upon the candidate. So if I am reviewing a candidate who has maybe a low GPA, and when I say low, 2.5, 2.7, and that's on a 4-point scale, and they didn't take a GMAT or GRE, that could be concerning to me from an admissions standpoint. Because again, we want to make sure that students are coming in and they're the most academically successful. So if they're performing low during their undergraduate years, it can concern us that they would perform low during their graduate program. But if somebody has a high GPA and multiple years of work experience, I'm not necessarily so concerned about that GMAT because I can see that they were actively successful during their undergraduate career, and then they've gone on to be successful in their career in general, life after their undergrad. So it really is dependent upon the candidate. It also is dependent upon geographical location because we review candidates from the geographical location in which they're coming from, because the education experience in Canada, the United States, Nigeria is going to be very different. So we want to make sure that there's an equitable review process. So again, it really depends upon the candidate. However, students that do submit with a standardized test score, have significant years of experience, have a high GPA, they tend to receive higher offers than those who do not.
Great. All right. The next question which has come up, this is from Shivam, who's talking about applicants from emerging markets like India. What kind of professional or academic profiles tend to receive the most competitive scholarships? Is there a particular industry that you feel that ends up getting more of the funding?
Yeah, that's a great question. Not at Michigan State. There's not one industry because really the full-time MBA, we look at it as people who are looking to pivot in their career or potentially change the industry in which they're going into or start their own companies. You had mentioned entrepreneurship. We have become a little bit of an entrepreneurship hub for students. We have many support systems and we've had many students go on and complete super great careers in startups. One of our students from class of 2024 started his own company during the program, and that's what he's doing. And he has multiple full-time employees under him at this point. So again, we're not necessarily looking at the industry and what you're coming from, but we are looking at where you're hoping to go, right? And that needs to be really easy for us to understand in the application. But let's say you're looking to go into being a franchisee, right? And maybe the other student that's applying is looking to go into talent acquisition and HR. One's not going to receive more money than the other just based upon their goals. Again, it comes to that merit-based profile, and that's how we keep it equitable.
Great. Thank you, Kara. The next question, this is from Ayush, and he's talking about the typical stipend or tuition waiver amount which graduate assistantships get them, and how many hours per week of work are they allowed to do.
Yeah, so each graduate assistantship regarding hours a week could be different. For MBA GAs, you work 10 hours a week. However, there are some that work 20 hours a week, but if you receive a position through the MBA, you're working 10 hours a week. From that, the stipend is dependent upon if you have a graduate degree or not. So the stipend ranges from about 850 USD a month to 960 USD a month. And that's what's voted on right now. It could go up next August. But if you have a graduate degree, you do receive more of a monthly stipend than those who just have the undergraduate degree. And that is distributed into your bank account twice a month. So every 2 weeks, you're receiving pay for that stipend. You also work 9 months, so you're not working a full year. For the MBA, we really encourage you to do an internship between your first and second year. So you have the opportunity to do an internship where you're not working for us 10 hours a week by any means. With that, you automatically receive those 9 credits of tuition waiver, and then you do receive healthcare for yourself. If you are coming with a family member, they do not receive the healthcare, but you receive healthcare. So we walk you through that if you've become a GA, if you were selected as a GA. So you will understand at time of admission what your stipend will be, what your tuition will be, and how to register for healthcare.
Great. Thanks, Kara. Kara, this is a question coming. So we did speak about the MBA program at Broad, but besides the MBA program, Broad does have a number of master's programs as well. Would you be okay just running the audience through some of the popular master's programs that the school offers?
Yeah, so popular master's programs, we have 13 master's programs, and we are very siloed in the approach that every master's program has their own director. So I would not be the industry expert if you were looking for, let's say, a MS in accounting. I would direct you to my colleague, Shannon Mullally. But many of those popular degree programs, obviously we have an MS in supply chain management, we have an MS in finance, an MS in accounting, data analytics. We have a MS in management strategy and leadership, a MS in healthcare management. So we do have them listed all on our website and what the curriculum would be, what the typical outcomes after degree completion, but really historically very similar master's programs that are offered at most US institutions.
All right. So, Kara, this is a specific question. It's come in. This is from Anmol. He's looking for a management program in agribusiness. He comes from an agriculture background as well. He's done his bachelor's in agriculture or in the agriculture domain broadly. So he's looking for an agribusiness management program. I'm guessing you would not have something very specific to agribusiness, but what would be the closest option that he can think of? Would it be a master's in management?
Yeah. So Michigan State University was actually founded as Michigan Agriculture College, MAC. So we were founded as we were founded as an agriculture college when we opened up 150 years ago. We are known for agriculture. Our undergraduate and graduate space, not so much in the business space, but in natural science and resources, really is the industry experts in agriculture for the United States. So we have our own dairy store here where we make our own ice cream and cheese. We have farm animals. We have a turf management program. So we are known as an ag school. But in terms of business, we don't have courses around agriculture. Now, if you have Michigan State University on your resume and you're applying to different ag industries within the United States, they're going to be very familiar with Michigan State, but we don't have concentrations or electives within the business school for you to focus on management and agriculture. The best 2 degrees would be the MBA and then the MS in management strategy and leadership.
All right, great. Anmol, that's your answer. So options for you to look at would be an MBA program or MS in management, but just being in the location, right? So just being in Michigan and being at MSU gives you access to the ecosystem around the university.
Correct.
So of course, that's a place you can evaluate as well. All right, now there are still a number of questions which are coming in and we have 10 minutes to go. So I'm going to be a little quick and pick up the most reasonable or relevant questions. This question is coming by Sumit, who's asking about what are the most common mistakes you see in applicant essays and how can they make sure that their story is compelling and unique for you to read?
Yeah, I mean, the most common mistake, and I think every MBA professional will say this, is putting the wrong institution in the essay. I think that it has become, especially with AI, very easy to just write one essay to fit all. And I have seen it multiple times where I'm reviewing an application and there will be the wrong institution name over and over and over again. And that is an easy mistake to fix, even if you want to have the same essay, which I don't encourage you to do, but even if you wanted to have the same essay, please make sure that you're replacing the institution name. Another mistake that I see is students being really rude to admissions professionals, right? Beth Thomas is on my team, and if there is a student that is being, or a prospective student that's being aggressive or very rude to her, she will absolutely tell me that. And if you are not being kind to my team, that's a red flag to me, because it makes me think that you're not going to be kind to your peers and your colleagues. Again, a we program, not a me program. So those would be the two biggest mistakes that I see candidates make. Now, in terms of making sure that you stand out, that's a little bit different, right? So the fact that this question came in and they're already thinking of this makes me think that they're a well-prepared candidate. I think reaching out to the current students to understand what the student experience is a really great first step. One, because you can see if you're a good fit or not for that student experience. Almost all MBA programs will have current student ambassadors that you're able to reach out to and ask specific questions on. If you do have questions about anything at all, not being shy to reach out to my team, whether that's Kate, Beth, or myself. You're not bugging us. That's what we're here for. But we also want you to make sure that you are a self-starter. So if you're reaching out to us to say, hey, are you STEM designated? Well, you can find that on our website, right? But if you're saying, hey, I'm really interested in a concentration in supply chain management, and I really want to work for the Walt Disney Company with supply chain, can you give me examples of that? That's a great time to reach out to us, right? So those questions are formatted a little bit differently, and that typically will stay in my mind. Or if somebody is pulling in really specific examples or alum from the institution, I know they've done their research and we're a good fit for them.
Great, thanks, Kara. And I'll add on one. If you're using AI to get your essays language checked or something like that, make sure to remove that sentence which says, here is a refined version of your essay when you're copy pasting. Please don't do that. And of course, personalize it to a very great extent. It should be your story coming out rather than an AI generated common story, right? That never stands out. Sumit, I hope that helps. I want to take up a question from Karishma. This is about how does Broad support international students with their visa-related concerns and postgraduate work opportunities like OPT or STEM extensions?
Yeah, so visa support, we work hand in hand with OISS, which is the Office for International Students and Scholars. When you are first admitted to the MBA, we have a checklist of documentations that you need to complete in order to get that I-20. The faster that you complete the checklist, the faster you will get your I-20 from the institution. So a lot of times we will have students reach out to us and say, hey, I was admitted, but I didn't get my I-20, and they haven't logged into their account. They haven't uploaded their financial proof statement. They haven't said if they're bringing children or family members or not. So it doesn't automatically happen. It really takes this harmonious relationship between the admitted student and our office, and you have to stay on top of the needs that we have for you. Once that I-20 is generated, then again, it's up to you to schedule the interview at your consulate, right? We have no control over that. However, if a student can't find an interview, or let's say they were denied at some point, I do write letters on behalf of that student to the consulate to say, hey, this is when orientation is starting. This person needs an interview by this point. Would you be so gracious to get them in? And this time it's not super helpful in this political journey right now, but it has been helpful in years past. And then at that point, once you have that interview, you have your visa in hand, we continue to give you updates about what needs to be completed and what your expectation is. We do a series of webinars for admitted students, and many of those webinars are around the international student experience. We also partner our admitted students up with what we call a Broad Buddy, and we try to make sure that all international students are partnered with a current international student in case there are specific questions that they might have. And that could even be like, where do I get this certain spice that I have back at home? Can you tell me where the closest like market is? So again, those good dialogues. Once you're here on campus, obviously OISS is a great resource. They have a huge team. It's not just like some small office. They really help students with a variety of different things. Anything you need, you can come to us and we can connect you with the right resource. And then during your journey, the Palmer Center for Career Management is going to be your best bet. So I always say career management is an active process, not a passive process. It's also a marathon, not a sprint. So if you stop applying to, I'll say, internships after 2 no's, that's not good resiliency, right? So you need to really be putting yourself out there. A common example I use is a student, an international student from Brazil who graduated last year. He interviewed 300 times. That's not putting in 300 applications. That's getting to the stage where the company liked his application and they offered him an interview 300 times for a full-time placement after the MBA. It came up into the 11th hour where it was 2 weeks before graduation and he still had 0 offers. The 2 weeks before graduation, he received 2 offers and he selected one of the offers that he received. His resiliency was really strong. He went to every career chat, every coffee chat, every career fair, anytime there was a Zoom session with Delta or Google or the Disney company, he was there, right? And he was making himself known. Not every international student does that. And again, you have to be able to put yourself out there, right? Life after, we provide support for students. We really try to make sure international students have everything that they need. If they don't place in an internship, we try to place them in a project so they at least have something on their resume. That has been more common, I'd say, this last year, again, because placement has become a little challenging, but we have one of the best career management teams out of any college. I will put my foot on that. We have a dedicated MBA career course, and only about 8 MBA programs in the country offer a dedicated career management course that every single student has to take. Their team is about 13 people large. They are right across the hallway from our MBA suite, and they will tirelessly work with any student to make sure that you have what you need to be the most successful applicant in the MBA program and after. I know that was really long-winded, but I wanted to make, there was a lot of layers with that question.
Right. This has been extremely helpful, and thank you for your patience to answer all these questions in so much detail. Really grateful for that. I want to take up one question from Ria, whose question is around a 2-year gap. So she's got 5 years of work experience with a 2-year gap in between, and she's trying to figure out how to position her profile despite this gap and how to explain this gap in this profile, in her profile.
Great question. We see students from all different walks of life. So I always say, let me make the decision. Don't self-select out, right? Sanjay, you had mentioned that like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed by funding. I'm just not even going to apply, right? Please don't do that, because if there's a will, there's a way. A lot of times I'll talk to students who are very worried about gaps or very worried about a blemish in their undergraduate career journey, or maybe they were let go from a company and they're scared we're going to find out about it. Please just be honest on your application. And we have an optional third essay. So we have the written essay, we have the video essay, and then we have an optional third essay. This optional third essay is a really great chance to bring up anything that you might be concerned about. So if there is a gap on your resume, just explain what that gap is, right? And then we can definitely address that more in the interview if that needs to be addressed. But sometimes I'll see, specifically parents will say, I had a young child who needed a lot of my attention, or I was a stay-at-home parent during that period of time. Then my child went to preschool or elementary school, so I went back into the workforce. Being a parent is extremely hard work. I have a 4-year-old. I know how much of a job that is, an unpaid job. So please just tell us on your application if there's any concerns. That could be if you got in legal trouble, that could be if you failed a class. Many times, if you don't explain it, we'll think the worst case scenario. So don't let us do that. Just take the time to explain it.
Great. Thanks, Kara. Ria, that is your insight. I'm sure there must have been a reason for that 2-year gap. So bring that in. And sometimes it just helps to be candid and genuine about it as well. So we are on the clock, but Kara, if you're okay, we can take up 2 more questions.
Sure. Yep, sure.
So I'm going to take up 2 interesting questions. And this is a question which has come up from Sneh Shah, and I'm going to reposition that question a little. This is around the recent news which has been coming out, right? There was earlier in the year, there was a stay on visa processing. There were, people were not able to get appointments. Then there's been this recent news about the H-1B visa, so the fees has been increased. And then there was some recent news yesterday as well at some universities being asked to cap their international student numbers. In such an environment, in such a situation, would you still recommend students to be looking at coming to the US for their MBA or master's? And how can they be best prepared to tackle these challenges when they graduate a couple of years down the line?
Yeah. I mean, I would say as somebody who's living in the US and reads the news every single day, right? This past year, and again, we're coming up to January, has been very chaotic in terms of education, higher education, and international students. Something will be said one week, and then next week it's changed, right? So that chaos leads to times of uncertainty because I cannot for certain say, oh yeah, of course you'll get your visa, or oh yeah, of course there will be appointments. We have really tried to do the best right thing here at Michigan State and here in the MBA space. So we do require a deposit, and if a student was not, typically the deposit is non-refundable, but if a student was not able to get their visa, of course we're going to refund that deposit, right? If a student had concerns about coming to the United States, of course we are refunding that deposit, right? We're not going to refund it if they chose to go to a different school because that's not a concern of safety or ability. But we've never had to refund as many deposits as we have last year. I had 24 international students that I admitted who deposited who were not able to get their visa or they had fears of coming to the United States that we refunded. I have not heard anything at Michigan State about putting a cap on international students. I will say historically, we're right about 30% international every year, but this year we were at 13 due to the amount of visa denials that had happened, right? So I'm trying to be very honest and very clear. Michigan as a whole is a very progressive state. We have not had a lot of ruckus, what I would call, or fear for our international students. But I think when you're looking at MBA programs, you want to definitely look at the state politics as well, because the United States politics is very confusing. Obviously, there's federal government, and then each state has their own rules and regulations, and we kind of feed into the federal government. So I will say Michigan is a very progressive area and very supportive of international students and a hub for international students. Other states might not be. So you want to make sure you're doing that research and due diligence to make the best right choice for yourself. Sanjay, does that answer it? I'm trying again. I can't say for certain, but geographical location does matter in the United States, and I think many international students don't realize how large the United States is.
Absolutely. And with your permission, I'm gonna add in a perspective as well. So
Sure.
for the candidates who are aspiring for the 2026 intakes, think about it this way, right? By the time you graduate, it's going to be 2027, late 2027, maybe even 2028 for a 2-year program. And things may change by then, right?
Dramatically. Yep.
The current administration which is there, the stint is going to end by end of 2028. So there's going to be a new government in power by 2029, early 2029, and policies keep changing.
On the daily.
They can change anytime, right? So they can change anytime.
Yeah.
Just because things are challenging right now, it doesn't mean that they'll continue to be challenging next year or the year after. Same way, if things would have been brilliant today, there's no guarantee that they would be brilliant tomorrow or next year, right? People who got into MBA programs way back in 2007, 2008, that was the peak of the boom. And then suddenly there was a huge crash. No one could have anticipated that. And same way, people who got into the programs in 2008, 2009, when things were really down, when they graduated by 2010 or 11, things had started looking up, and they had some great career outcomes post that as well. So you can never predict the future completely. So don't base your decision just basis today's news. Take into account a plan for the next few years, and from a long-term perspective, a good quality education, brand at your MBA program at a prestigious institution always pays off. That's why they have survived. These programs have survived for over a century now and do so well all this while. With that, I'm going to just answer one question which has come in from the audience. This is from Samprut about getting a recording of the session. So I want to say that the recording of this session is going to be available on the Seeds YouTube channel. So what I'm going to do is quickly post a link to the Seed Global Education's YouTube channel in this chat. So if you want to follow us over there, please do. You'll be able to see recordings. You'll be able to see recordings of our previous sessions as well on that YouTube channel. So please do check it out. And if you have any questions about MSc Broad, feel free to reach out to our team as well. We are happy to do advising. We just do general guidance on program options for you to evaluate. We don't sell any services to the students. So if you're looking for neutral guidance, or you want to be connected with the MSc Broad team, if you have some common queries and you want us to consolidate those queries and send them to Kara to get your response or more insights, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to do that for you. With that, I am going to take everyone's permission to wrap up this session. Thank you, Kara, for being such a patient panelist and presenter to answer all the queries which the audience had. I know I'm leaving a lot of questions unanswered. It's not possible. We'll keep on going for another hour if we continue like this. But to the audience,
just reach out to me. Happy to read via email.
So perfect. So reach out to Kara for any further questions. I'm sure her team would be very excited to answer your questions. But as she said in the session, right, be prepared, go with relevant questions. So don't just go with questions which are already answered on the website. Do your research, go with relevant questions, and I'm sure her team would be very excited to answer those questions. With that, thank you once again, Kara, and thank you to our audience as well. Wish you a great evening or day ahead, depending on the time zone you're in, and it's been a pleasure hosting this session.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.